Ireland is very much at the races. I think, as you said, in the last 10 years in particular, really since the beginning of SFI, I guess, because they brought in the significant funding. Well, SFI did two things. They brought in significant funding, and they also brought quality, because they raised the bar and said we'll only bring in good people. So the combination of two have led now, I think, after 10 years, which is a relatively short time actually in research, to a pretty good base of research in Ireland, certainly nanotechnology research, which would be the one I'd be familiar with. To the point that I think that, and I said this before, I think the quality in Ireland today in nanoscience in certain areas is world class. And I can say that because we're interacting heavily with it from an Intel perspective, and I consider what we're doing to be world class in manufacturing certainly, and in technology. So we're engaging with it, we're learning an awful lot from it, and getting a lot of benefit from it. So we're certainly at the race from a scientific perspective, John. In terms though of research translation and benefiting lots of industries, I think we have a way to go yet. As you know, I've been a bit of a campaigner for the need for different infrastructure for many years, and I still think that is a challenge. I don't think it's an urgent need, but I do think that we need to look at what infrastructure, research infrastructure we have going forward. What do we need going forward to really affect this research, the translation of this really good base of research that we have. So I think we're well positioned, but I think there's a lot more thinking required, a lot more joining of the dots required to figure out how both the multinational and indeed the indigenous industries in Ireland can best benefit from the research that's here. There's certainly lots of green shoots that you can look to say that people can benefit from it. I think Crown in particular have done a great job recently in engaging with some of the smaller companies in Ireland. And also from an industry perspective, the industries themselves need to turn around and engage and look at the possibilities that are here now. So it's not just the academics pushing, but really the industries need to be pulling as well and looking at what this wonderful ecosystem that we have and how they can engage and take benefit from it. Science, maths, physics, chemistry, the sciences, that's a simple one. Kids generally make their mind up or generally get interested at quite a young age. It's been my own experience with seeing my own kids going through the system, and from as young as 5th class, 6th class in primary school all the way through to the junior cert cycle, it's at that age that they're developing their interests. And I'd certainly be encouraging people at those ages even to be looking to science, not just a science subject, but even engaging in some of the scientific activities that are around. And there's lots of stuff you can do. You can enter the Young Scientist, you can do things like SciFest, you can do all the various different programs colleges put on, but really go and learn about science and hopefully then choose science when you go to university. From then on, what I say to people is that when you get into university, stay in education as long as you can bear it. And I do like to encourage people to go on and do further education beyond their primary degree and do the Masters and PhD. And the reason is very real. While there has been difficulty in the world economy in the last number of years, the world hasn't stopped. It's moved on, and technologies have become even more advanced. And so to be able to compete in these technologies, certainly we're seeing it at Intel that we need people with the highest levels of education, and hence I do like to encourage people to go on and do their Masters and PhDs and get to the highest level of education and make themselves as competitive as they can be when they do eventually join the industry. We have had our Baltimores, we've had our Ionas, so we've had our technology giants, so there's no reason to believe that you can't have something that's been enabled by nanoscience. Nanoscience is very broad, so there's lots of different things that it could enable, and could it create the multinational in the future? Here's hoping. In the meantime, I mean, the nanoscience that is being developed in Ireland is starting to impact. Again, certainly in our own experience, is starting to have an impact in how we're thinking about our future technologies. So that'll certainly benefit Ireland one day as well. That's kind of the multinational picture. But I couldn't give you a specific, but I would be very confident that you will see those kind of breakthrough for companies in Ireland, but of course they have to engage in nanoscience to learn about it and to take the benefit, and go back to the point I made earlier. There's fantastic benefit here now. There's great skills and competence, and it's just there for the taking for industries to engage with it and really bring their technologies to world-class levels, and have at it, and let's see what happens. I think, I guess, two broad things. One is we need to continue investing in what we've done. You can't just stop. And of course there are difficulties in that. But I think the government have been very supportive through very difficult times, both the previous government and this government. And indeed, I believe they're just in the final rounds of completing a prioritisation exercise. And I think that's very positive because they're looking as to what's important, and certainly what they're producing. The bits I've seen looks like it's broad enough to capture lots of interesting things. Because the fear when you prioritise is you might get too narrow, but I think they've kept it quite broad. So that's an important piece of work to continue to invest in the science. And also to continue to bring people into the country. I think that's very important. Not only do you continue to invest in the people you've already brought here, but also that you continue to look for new talent, to attract new talent to Ireland, because that's been a big part of our success in the last 10 years, a big part of the revolution that you described. So that's the first part. The second part then is I do think we need to figure out, though, and spend more time trying to figure out how to translate the science into useful products and services. So, Crown and Tyndall as well, they do a great job in reaching out to industry and trying to really engage with companies. But I think there's more we can do in that regard, and maybe even more from a government perspective as well, in terms of how the programs are organised, how the policies are organised, to really shift the focus now. Absolutely not leaving the basic research. That is your pipeline. You have to keep that flowing, but really shift the focus now much more into how do we really to complete the revolution, to get over the next barrier, is really to figure out how do we get many more industries involved. Because of something like the 4,000 or 5,000 manufacturing industries we have in Ireland today, there's probably 100 and that's been optimistic. About 100 industries that are involved. That's a tiny percentage. So we should be setting aggressive goals as a country, I think, to get 10, 15, 20% of our manufacturing industry engaged in advanced technologies in the next 10 years. And if we do that, John, I think we'll see the completion of the revolution.